Yoon Ji-ho is an aspiring screenwriter going through a difficult period in her life. She is at a point where her career is failing and her personal life is full of disappointments. Ji-ho's romantic relationships are not working out and she feels that her life is not going the way she once planned. Her situation is further complicated when she suddenly loses her home, leaving her homeless. Ji-ho is forced to leave the home of her brother, with whom she has been living since he got married. As her sense of loneliness and loss grows, she is faced with the choice of finding a new place to live or finding herself in an even more difficult situation. She no longer wants to live with her family or friends, as she wants to become independent. While looking for a place to live, Ji-ho accidentally finds an advertisement for a room. The ad is placed by Se-hee, a 30-year-old introvert and computer programmer who lives by strict rules. He is a man who has no interest in romantic relationships and is focused on paying the mortgage on his apartment. Se-hee decides to rent out one of the rooms to share the mortgage costs. He is looking for nothing more than a practical and businesslike arrangement with the tenant. Ji-ho and Se-hee meet to discuss the terms of cohabitation. To them, it seems like a mutually beneficial deal. Ji-ho needs a place to live right away, and Se-hee needs a tenant to help with the mortgage payments. They enter into a contract that at first glance seems simple and straightforward. However, despite the apparent rationality of this decision, neither of them suspects how this agreement will change their lives. From the beginning, their life together seems like a purely business arrangement based on established rules and boundaries. Both of them believe they can avoid emotional involvement by keeping their personal lives separate. But this arrangement gradually begins to become the basis for something more as their personal worlds begin to overlap. Se-hee and Ji-ho's first few days together go smoothly, though there is some awkwardness between them. Ji-ho tries to adapt to Se-hee's strict rules, who prefers stability and order in everything. However, her emotional nature sometimes clashes with his cold and rational approach to life, which creates funny and sometimes tense moments in their interaction. Yoon Ji-ho finally moves into Se-hee's apartment. After making an agreement and discussing all the formalities, she feels slightly relieved that she now has a stable place to live. But at the same time, she feels a little uncomfortable with the fact that her roommate is a man, and a man with an unusual character like Se-hee. He is strict, withdrawn, and clearly used to a secluded life, which makes it difficult for her to adapt to her new surroundings. Se-hee, on the other hand, treats Ji-ho as a new tenant. He perceives her presence solely through the prism of a business agreement. They live in the same apartment to share the financial burden, and nothing more. For him, it is a profitable arrangement, and he does not plan any personal or emotional attachments. To make their cohabitation as painless as possible, Se-hee and Ji-ho set strict rules for living together. They agree on times to use the kitchen, bathroom, and other parts of the apartment so that they don't overlap too often. Se-hee, as someone with a strict routine, spells out these rules almost like a contract, believing that this will avoid any awkwardness or misunderstandings. Ji-ho, realizing that this is the best option under the circumstances, agrees to these terms, although she feels a little constrained by the strict confines of their agreement. In the first few days of living together, Ji-ho tries to follow all the rules. She is careful not to disturb the order to which Se-hee is accustomed and adapts to the new rhythm of life. However, minor misunderstandings gradually arise between them. Ji-ho accidentally leaves his things on the living room table or forgets to turn off the light, which makes Se-hee unhappy. He is not used to such small things, and every violation of the rules is perceived as an invasion of his personal space. At the same time, Ji-ho, although he tries to follow the agreements, begins to feel that the strict rules create an impassable distance between them. Despite their reserved behavior with each other, their first attempts at interaction show that they are both gradually learning to compromise. Ji-ho begins to realize that Se-hee is not as cold as he seems at first glance. He is simply used to protecting himself from the outside world through distance and rationality. She notices his concern for the little things, like making sure the apartment is always clean and cozy, which helps her feel more comfortable. Se-hee, though not very open, also begins to notice that Ji-ho brings something new to his life, a little warmth and spontaneity that was missing before. Meanwhile, Ji-ho's friends begin to notice changes in her life. Her friends, suspecting that she is living with a man, begin to ask questions. They see that Ji-ho has become more private than usual and wonder who her new roommate is. Ji-ho tries to avoid details, explaining that their cohabitation is just a convenient arrangement to pay the rent. However, her friends don't fully believe what she says, especially when they learn that her roommate is a single man. Ji-ho's friends try to tease her by hinting at a possible romantic relationship, but she confidently denies any such thoughts. Her relationship with Se-hee remains purely formal, and despite their living together, Ji-ho is convinced that there can be nothing more between them. To her, Se-hee is just a roommate, albeit a strange one. However, her friends continue to have their doubts as they see Ji-ho thinking more and more about her day in his presence. Se-hee, for his part, does not share details about Ji-ho with his friends and co-workers. He remains withdrawn and focused on his work, avoiding discussions about his personal life. His co-workers know that he has always been a man who prefers solitude, so no one guesses that he now has a cohabitant. For Se-hee, keeping this secret is a way to maintain control of his life, as he is not ready to open up to others. However, as time passes, their relationship, though based on strict rules, begins to take on a warmer tone. Ji-ho and Se-hee get used to living with each other, and although there is still some tension between them, they begin to realize that they can coexist under the same roof without conflict. At one point, Ji-ho even begins to wonder what's behind Se-hee's cold exterior, but for now, he leaves those thoughts aside, trying not to complicate their arranged relationship. Se-hee also begins to notice that his life has changed with the appearance of Ji-ho. Her presence disrupts his usual routine, but not in a bad way. He begins to get used to her minor rule-breaking behaviors and realizes that they aren't as big a deal as he previously thought. Despite his outward reticence, he begins to realize that living with Ji-ho brings something new and enjoyable to his home, though he's not yet ready to admit it even to himself. Life under the same roof for Ji-ho and Se-hee gradually turns into a challenge. Although they had originally made a clear and rational agreement to cohabit, the reality of living together soon reveals that it's not that simple. Differences in their personalities and daily habits begin to become apparent, causing tension and misunderstandings. Ji-ho, who is used to a freer and more creative life, begins to find it difficult to adjust to the strict order that Se-hee imposes. She is accustomed to a light carelessness in her household, but for Se-hee, any deviation from his usual rhythm and routine seems like a violation of his personal space. He perceives every detail as something important, from how the kitchen should look like to what time the lights should be turned off. One of the first challenges becomes the cleaning situation. Se-hee demands perfect order in all rooms, including the living room and kitchen, where they occasionally overlap. Ji-ho, although she tries to follow the rules, still makes small mistakes such as leaving a mug on the table or forgetting to turn off the bathroom light. These little things cause Se-hee some irritation, but he tries not to show it directly. Meanwhile, Ji-ho begins to feel uncomfortable that her freedom has been restricted by the arrangement. She feels that she can't be herself in her new environment. She feels like her space and actions are constantly controlled by Se-hee's strict rules. Despite this, she realizes that Se-hee is not intentionally trying to make her life difficult. He is simply a man accustomed to a certain order and stability that helps him feel in control of his life. Se-hee faces his first internal challenges as well. He has a hard time getting used to having another person around him all the time. He is used to privacy and silence, and now any violation of his space causes him internal discomfort. It's not easy for him to accept the change, but he also realizes that it's part of their agreement and he has to adapt. For Se-hee, however, every little deviation from his usual routine is a challenge to his systematized life that he is not prepared for. Over time, conversations begin to arise between them that gradually lead to a better understanding of each other. For example, when Ji-ho leaves her things in the living room and Se-hee notices it, he gently points it out to her. However, instead of an argument ensuing, they discuss why this is important to Se-hee. Ji-ho begins to realize that for him, order is not just a habit, but a way to deal with anxiety and control his life. In turn, Se-hee begins to notice that Ji-ho brings something new to his life, something he hasn't experienced in a long time. Her ease, spontaneity, and willingness to compromise help him better understand that life doesn't have to be predictable and controlled in every aspect. He begins to see that her approach to life can bring him new experiences and feelings that he had previously avoided. One of those moments is the evening when Ji-ho decides to cook dinner for the both of them. It was a spontaneous decision to liven up their interactions a bit and try to mend their relationship. Se-hee, who is used to strict routines and even always eating dinner alone, is initially skeptical of the idea. However, as they dine together, an unexpected sense of comfort develops between them. They begin to talk about life, work, and even personal hobbies, which was uncharacteristic of them before. This dinner becomes the first important moment when a mutual understanding begins to dawn between them. Se-hee, though still reserved, begins to open up a little more. Ji-ho notices his genuine interest in her thoughts and begins to feel more comfortable in his company. Although their differences still remain, they begin to learn to understand and accept each other's peculiarities. As they continue to share the same space, Ji-ho and Se-hee begin to realize that their interactions go beyond the usual business arrangement. They both realize that they can work through these differences if they work on themselves and find compromises. Despite the initial difficulties, this cohabitation begins to show that perhaps something more than just living together is brewing between them. After a few weeks of living together, Ji-ho and Se-hee's life began to take on a new rhythm. Despite their initial differences, they have learned to coexist and even begin to find unexpected support in each other. However, there are new challenges ahead of them that will challenge their carefully constructed system. One such test is the sudden visit from Ji-ho's parents. Her parents, unaware that their daughter is living with a man, come to town and decide to stay with her. Ji-ho finds herself in a difficult situation. She cannot explain to her parents that she is living with a man without arousing suspicion. Her traditionalist parents may not understand her decision to live with a stranger, especially a man, and this poses a serious threat to her reputation. To avoid awkward questions and suspicion from her parents, Ji-ho panics and decides to tell them that she and Se-hee are married. This act becomes an impulsive decision that was meant to help temporarily hide the true state of affairs. Se-hee, despite his confusion, supports Ji-ho in this situation. For him, it seems like a rational way out, A sham marriage will avoid unnecessary explanations and conflicts with his parents, and their lives can continue as usual. Ji-ho and Se-hee officially declare themselves married in front of Ji-ho's parents. They are shocked at first, as the news of the marriage was a complete surprise. They start asking a lot of questions about how it happened, why they weren't invited to the wedding, and what exactly made their daughter get married in such a hurry. Ji-ho tries to reassure her parents, saying that everything happened quickly and that they didn't want to have a lavish ceremony. Ji-ho's parents gradually begin to calm down but still express confusion about the secret marriage. Se-hee, despite his inner confusion, tries to support Ji-ho's story and plays the role of a caring husband. He behaves as circumstances dictate, but inside he is still the same rational and emotionally detached person. However, his calmness and confidence in dealing with Ji-ho's parents helps to soften the situation. Her parents begin to believe their version of events, albeit with a few doubts. However, the decision to enter into a sham marriage begins to bring new complications. After Ji-ho's parents leave their apartment, they both realize that their lives have now changed. Before they can recover from this plot, they have to continue to portray a married couple, not only to their parents but also to others around them. Ji-ho realizes that she will now need to maintain this story in front of her friends to avoid unnecessary questions. For Se-hee, this also proves to be a challenge. He's used to his life being neatly organized and streamlined, and now he has to bring elements into it that he didn't plan for. He cannot simply withdraw from this arrangement, as he realizes that this will have repercussions for Ji-ho and her family. This becomes a new challenge for him, dealing with unforeseen circumstances and changing his usual rules. One major difficulty arises when Ji-ho's friends begin to suspect that something is not right here. They notice that Ji-ho is behaving differently than usual and begin to question her marriage. Ji-ho's friends notice that she avoids discussing her personal life and seems secretive, which only heightens their suspicions. For Ji-ho, maintaining the illusion of marriage becomes even more difficult as her friends begin to inquire about her relationship with Se-hee. Interactions with Se-hee's parents are not without problems either. When his parents find out about the marriage, they also express surprise, as Se-hee has never shown any interest in family life. The news that their son is married comes as a complete surprise to them, and they start asking him uncomfortable questions about why he didn't tell them earlier and why the wedding was held in secret. Se-hee tries to remain calm and replies that it all happened too quickly, but this leaves his parents perplexed and worried. Ji-ho and Se-hee are faced with a new reality. Their sham marriage requires not only formalities, but also interaction with their families and friends, who expect them to behave in certain ways. This solution, which seemed temporary and convenient, becomes increasingly difficult to fulfill, especially when their entourage begins to scrutinize their relationship. Ji-ho begins to realize that their sham marriage may lead to new difficulties, especially when she begins to wonder how long they can maintain this illusion. Meanwhile, despite their external difficulties, a deeper understanding begins to develop between Ji-ho and Se-hee. Now that they are forced to play the role of spouses, they begin to spend more time together, get to know each other better, and even learn to cope with the emotional and domestic challenges that come before them. Se-hee begins to see Ji-ho not just as a roommate, but as someone with whom he can share his life, albeit in a limited format. Ji-ho, in turn, begins to realize that behind Se-hee's rational mask is a person who also needs support and attention. The fake marriage between Ji-ho and Se-hee continues to complicate their lives, but suddenly Ji-ho realizes that her feelings for Se-hee are gradually changing. Everything that initially seemed like a simple and clear agreement turns into something more complicated and confusing. In the beginning, their interactions were based on strict rules and distance, but now they're encountering more and more situations that make Ji-ho question her true feelings for Se-hee. Each day they spend together reveals new traits of his character to Ji-ho. Se-hee, who previously seemed cold and withdrawn, now begins to show a softer side. He doesn't always express his emotions openly, but his actions and concern for Ji-ho, albeit hidden behind outward restraint, begin to create in her a new understanding of their relationship. She's increasingly noticing small gestures of attention from Se-hee, whether it's caring for her comfort or helping her with minor household issues. These moments begin to affect her feelings, causing confusion and inner conflict. Ji-ho begins to wonder how Se-hee perceives their life together. For her, this sham marriage begins to take on more personal characteristics, and she can't shake the idea that her affection for him goes beyond a normal arrangement. Internally, she struggles with this. On the one hand, she realizes that their agreement was purely formal, but on the other hand, her growing feelings push her to think that this is no longer a game for her. Ji-ho begins to recall moments of their interactions and tries to understand how Se-hee himself perceives their situation. Every conversation they have, every time they spend together, she wonders if he also sees something more in their relationship, or if it's still a purely practical arrangement for him. Memories of Se-hee supporting her in front of her parents and helping her deal with awkward situations become another reason for her to wonder if he has feelings that he may be hiding. In an attempt to sort out her emotions, Ji-ho increasingly pays attention to the details of their life together. She begins to realize that she is attracted not only to Se-hee's caring nature, but also to his quiet confidence and reliability. He has become the kind of person she feels safe around, and this gradually leads her to romantic feelings. Ji-ho can't say exactly when it happened, but her heart no longer sees Se-hee as just a roommate or a contract partner. Meanwhile, Se-hee remains outwardly calm and collected, continuing to live his life according to his usual routine. However, despite his restraint, he too begins to think about Ji-ho more and more often. He's not used to emotional intimacy, but her presence is increasingly becoming an important part of his life. Se-hee, being a rational and logical man, doesn't know how to deal with the new sensations. His past failures in romantic relationships make him afraid to open up and admit that Ji-ho has become more than just a roommate to him. Ji-ho, seeing Se-hee's outward calmness, begins to doubt her feelings and fears that he doesn't see their situation the way she does. She feels that Se-hee probably still only sees her as someone he's made a lucrative deal with. These thoughts make her anxious, and she doesn't know what to do, open up to him or continue to hide her real emotions. One day during dinner, as they talk about their daily routine, Ji-ho realizes that she can no longer see Se-hee as just a man with whom she has an agreement. To her, he has become someone who holds an important place in her life, even as they continue to honor the outer boundaries of their agreement. She feels that her heart says one thing and her mind says another, and this internal conflict begins to raise more and more questions in her. Se-hee, though not openly expressing his feelings, also begins to notice a change in his attitude toward Ji-ho. Her presence has become familiar to him, and he can no longer imagine his life without her. However, his fear of emotional intimacy in romantic relationships still holds him back from changing anything about their formal arrangements. With each passing day, Ji-ho sinks deeper into her thoughts, realizing that her feelings for Se-hee are growing stronger. She can no longer pretend that this is just a formal cohabitation for her. However, the question of how he perceives their situation remains open and frightening to her. Ji-ho begins to wonder if she's willing to take the risk of opening up to him, knowing that she might hear an answer she's not satisfied with. Ji-ho continues to explore her feelings for Se-hee, but she is still uncertain about how he sees their relationship. There is still some reticence in their interactions, and although they are starting to spend more time together, it still feels detached. Ji-ho feels that there is an emotional connection between them, but doesn't know how important it is to Se-hee. While her feelings for him grow stronger, she's not sure if he's ready to open up and show his true side. One night, during another dinner together, the conversation suddenly turns to more personal topics. Ji-ho, noticing Se-hee's reticence and reluctance to open up, decides to ask about his past. Up until this point, he has not talked much about himself, avoiding topics related to his personal life and romantic relationships. Ji-ho realizes that she is concerned not only about how he perceives their current situation, but also what may have caused him to become so closed off and reserved. Se-hee is reluctant to answer questions about his past at first, but gradually the conversation reveals another side of his personality. He shares with Ji-ho the story of his past failures in his personal life. Se-hee talks about his past relationships, which turned out to be painful experiences for him. These failures are revealed to have had a profound effect on him, causing him to shut out his emotions and avoid new attachments. He explains that he was deeply hurt, and therefore made the decision not to get involved in serious romantic relationships anymore. This confession becomes a turning point for Ji-ho, who begins to realize that his reticence and coldness are the result of his past experiences and not his true nature. Ji-ho listens to him with understanding and sympathy. It becomes clear to her that Se-hee is not indifferent, but is simply protecting himself from possible pain. She realizes that his rational approach to life and strict rules are not just character traits, but rather a way to avoid repeating past mistakes. This conversation brings them closer together. Ji-ho now sees Se-hee not only as a roommate but also as someone who, like her, has been through emotional hardship and is still struggling with the consequences. Ji-ho herself also shares her thoughts and experiences. She tells Se-hee about her career path and how her dreams and hopes for the future have not materialized as she expected. Both characters are faced with a choice: open up to each other and risk their emotions, or continue to keep their distance, hiding their true feelings. Although their conversation was an important step towards getting closer, neither of them is ready to fully reveal their true feelings yet. Se-hee realizes that Ji-ho has become an important part of his life, but his fear of emotional attachment still keeps him from making any changes in their formal relationship. He is afraid that if he opens up to her, he will once again experience the pain that once caused him to close himself off. This fear becomes his main obstacle to possible changes in their relationship. Ji-ho, for her part, realizes that her feelings for Se-hee are becoming more and more apparent, but she's still not sure how to tell him. Despite their conversation and mutual understanding, she feels that there is still a wall between them that needs to be overcome. Her growing emotions for Se-hee are becoming more and more obvious to herself, but she fears that if she confesses her feelings, it will destroy their delicate balance. Despite their inner doubts, they both begin to feel their emotional connection grow stronger. Every time they are alone together, there is a special atmosphere between them that they both begin to notice. They are no longer just roommates, but people whose lives are intertwined on a deeper level. However, the fear of change and possible pain still keeps them from taking the first step towards each other. Se-hee, still outwardly calm and reserved, after a frank conversation, begins to think that maybe it's time for him to let go of his past fears and try to open his heart to Ji-ho. She, in turn, feels her feelings for him growing stronger and stronger, and she can no longer ignore them. After a frank conversation about the past, Ji-ho and Se-hee begin to realize that their agreement to live together is no longer seen as a purely formal arrangement. Both characters begin to feel that the relationship between them has grown deeper, and they are no longer just roommates. Each day they spend together brings more and more new emotions, and makes them think that their contractual relationship is taking on a more personal touch. Ji-ho is noticing more and more how her thoughts of Se-hee are starting to fill her daily life. She can no longer deny her feelings for him, and every dinner or conversation they have together makes her heart beat faster. For her, their cohabitation agreement has long since lost its original meaning, and she realizes that she is emotionally involved in this relationship much more than she expected. At the same time, Ji-ho begins to notice that Se-hee no longer seems as cold and distant as he did at the beginning of their cohabitation. Se-hee also senses that the situation is changing. Although he's used to being detached and rational, he can't ignore the feelings he has for Ji-ho. Her caring, sincerity, and presence in his life are beginning to take up more space in his heart than he was willing to admit to himself. With each new encounter, with each conversation, Se-hee feels his defenses slowly crumbling. However, despite all these internal changes, he still continues to fight his feelings, trying to stay within the confines of their formal agreement. One of those moments is the evening when they both decide to watch a movie together. It was a spontaneous moment where they randomly picked an old movie they both loved as kids. Spending the evening on the couch, there is a special atmosphere of coziness and intimacy between them that was not there before. Ji-ho feels that something new is emerging between them, something that goes beyond the usual cohabitation. Her heart is overflowing with tenderness, but she is afraid to make the first move, afraid to destroy the fragile harmony they have just begun to build. Se-hee, though he continues to be reserved outwardly, also senses that there is a new connection between them. He finds himself worrying about Ji-ho much more than before. Her presence in his life has become important to him, and now he can no longer imagine his home without her. Despite his best efforts to remain rational, he increasingly thinks that their relationship can no longer remain just a business relationship. The mutual attraction becomes more and more obvious to both of them, but both Ji-ho and Se-hee continue to hold back their feelings. Each of them is afraid to make the first move for fear that it will ruin their current lives. Ji-ho still doesn't know how Se-hee really feels about her, and is afraid to admit her feelings for fear of being rejected. Se-hee, despite his deep feelings, continues to struggle with himself, fearing that revealing these emotions will lead him to disappointment and pain again, as it has in the past. However, as time passes, their restraint begins to crack at the seams. Both feel that their bond is growing stronger by the day, and it is no longer possible to ignore it. They increasingly look for occasions to spend time together, whether it's dinners together, walks around the city, or just talking about life. Each such moment strengthens their emotional bond and makes them realize that their cohabitation agreement no longer reflects the true nature of their relationship. The situation reaches a climax when Ji-ho and Se-hee decide to spend the weekend together by going for a walk in the park. During this walk, they encounter moments of awkward silence that only heighten the tension between them. Both realize that behind these silences are unspoken feelings that they can no longer ignore. For Ji-ho, this becomes another confirmation that she can no longer hide her emotions. She begins to wonder if she's ready to take the risk and make the first move on Se-hee, or should she wait for him to take the initiative? At the same time, Se-hee realizes more and more that their relationship has changed, and now his inner fear of emotional attachment is preventing him from moving forward. Ji-ho begins to realize that her feelings for Se-hee have grown into something much deeper. She realizes that she is falling in love with him, but this process scares her, because there is still a pact between them that originally meant no romantic attachments. For Ji-ho, this excitement becomes a cause for internal conflict. On the one hand, she wants to confess her feelings to herself and Se-hee, but on the other hand, she fears that it might destroy their delicate balance. Her doubts continue to grow as she doesn't know how Se-hee really feels. Each day they spend together fills Ji-ho with more and more excitement and hope. She notices that her heart beats faster when Se-hee is around, and even simple conversations or meals together trigger emotions she can no longer ignore. But despite her growing feelings, Ji-ho isn't ready to open up to Se-hee, fearing that his reaction might be unexpected and painful for her. Se-hee, for his part, continues to act reserved. Although his actions often show concern for Ji-ho, he still doesn't allow himself to openly express his emotions. He, too, is beginning to realize that Ji-ho has become more than just a roommate to him. But his past experiences and fear of emotional vulnerability prevent him from making the first move. Se-hee keeps his distance, afraid of repeating the mistakes that have already led him to disappointment once before. While Ji-ho and Se-hee continue to hide their true feelings from each other, their friends and colleagues begin to notice changes in their behavior. Ji-ho's friends, who have been following her life for a long time, and can't help but notice that she spends a lot of time with Se-hee, begin to ask questions. They see her mood change in his presence and begin to suspect that their sham marriage is no longer just a convenient deal. The friends begin to tease Ji-ho, suspecting that she feels more for Se-hee than she's willing to admit. However, Ji-ho fights back and tries not to show how deep her feelings for him have become. At work, Ji-ho's coworkers also begin to notice a change. She has become more distracted and thoughtful, and her attention to detail sometimes gives way to thoughts of Se-hee. She often catches herself thinking about him even at times when she should be focused on work. Her coworkers start asking questions, curious about her personal life and how her relationship with her husband is developing. Ji-ho, embarrassed, tries to change the subject and not give away her true feelings, but her friends won't stop teasing her, insinuating that she seems to be in love. Meanwhile, Se-hee is facing similar situations. His co-workers notice that he has become softer and calmer, and begin to joke that married life has changed him. They see that Se-hee has become more attentive and interested in what is going on around him, although he himself continues to try to keep his distance when discussing his feelings. He finds it difficult to admit even to himself that Ji-ho has become a meaningful part of his life. He still struggles with his inner fears, afraid of making mistakes, but his changed behavior does not go unnoticed. One of the iconic moments is when Ji-ho and Se-hee go to a party together. This public event makes them think about their relationship even more, as they can no longer ignore the fact that people around them perceive them as a couple. As the party progresses, Ji-ho catches herself noticing Se-hee looking at her more and more, but she's not sure if the gaze means anything more than that. She feels his presence around her as something comfortable and safe, but she's afraid to open up to him about her feelings. During this party, Ji-ho and Se-hee's friends begin to openly tease them, implying that their marriage seems more real than they want to admit. This makes Ji-ho feel uncomfortable, as she realizes that their friendly teasing might be touching her real feelings. Se-hee also feels uncomfortable under the pressure of her friends' questions and innuendos, and this moment further increases the internal tension between them. When they return home, the atmosphere between Ji-ho and Se-hee becomes more tense. Both realize that their arrangements no longer work the way they used to. Ji-ho is increasingly tormented by the idea that her feelings for Se-hee are becoming too strong to ignore, but she's afraid of ruining what they have. At the same time, Se-hee continues to hold himself back for fear of making a mistake, but his emotions are starting to take over as well. Se-hee, who has been hiding his emotions and keeping his distance for a long time, gradually realizes that his feelings for Ji-ho are deeper than he ever imagined. Up until this point, he had perceived their relationship as something convenient and rational, limited by the confines of a cohabitation agreement. However, with each day he spends with Ji-ho, he notices that she has become an integral part of his life. Her presence in his home and daily life is no longer seen as just a necessity or part of the agreement. He begins to realize that his heart has opened up to her, though he continues to struggle with this realization. Se-hee, being a man who has always relied on logic and rationality, finds himself in a difficult situation. His previous romantic failures have left a deep mark, and he is afraid that a new feeling might lead to disappointment again. This fear makes him hold back, even when he realizes that Ji-ho has become more than just a roommate to him. Se-hee's internal conflict intensifies. On the one hand, he begins to see Ji-ho as someone he would like to be close to, but on the other hand, his fear of repeating past mistakes makes him avoid confessing his feelings. In the moments they are together, Se-hee begins to notice small details that previously escaped his attention. The way Ji-ho laughs, how she cares for him in the smallest things, how she's always willing to listen to him and support him. These moments make him feel a warmth and closeness that he hasn't felt in a long time. However, every time he is ready to open his heart, an anxiety rises inside him. Will he be able to maintain control of the situation and not let his feelings take him over again? Se-hee often reflects on their relationship alone. He realizes that Ji-ho has become the person he's comfortable with, but admitting it out loud is incredibly difficult for him. He's afraid that if he opens up to her, their relationship will change and he'll lose the stability he's so used to. His mind is constantly spinning with thoughts that Ji-ho might not share his feelings, or worse, that their confession to each other might cause everything to fall apart. It keeps him at a distance, even when his heart is ready to accept her. Meanwhile, Ji-ho, sensing that Se-hee is slowly starting to open up, wonders more and more what he really feels for her. She sees his care and attention, but also notices his reticence and attempts to control his emotions. Ji-ho is finding it increasingly difficult to sort out how he perceives their relationship. She still hopes that he has feelings for her too, but his reticence and caution make her doubtful. One day, when they are spending an evening at home together, there is a tense silence between them. Ji-ho tries to start a conversation, but senses that Se-hee is hiding behind the wall of her rational thinking again. Se-hee senses this silence too, and two opposing feelings struggle inside him: the desire to open his heart and the fear of doing so. This moment becomes especially difficult for him, as he realizes that he can no longer ignore his emotions, but he doesn't know how to take the first step. Se-hee lies awake at night, pondering his situation. He realizes that his feelings for Ji-ho are growing stronger, and he can no longer pretend that it's just a friendly, or formal relationship, but the fear that this could end up like his past relationships keeps him from moving forward. He has to decide whether to open up to Ji-ho and risk his peace of mind for a possible happiness, or continue to hide his feelings, hoping that the situation will somehow resolve itself. Ji-ho continues to worry about the uncertainty of her relationship with Se-hee. Her feelings for him are growing stronger, but the lack of clarity about how he perceives her is starting to worry her. Every day she finds it harder and harder to contain her emotions, and she can no longer ignore the fact that their connection has gone beyond the original contract. Ji-ho senses that they are both on the cusp of something important, but neither of them dares to make the first move. One evening, after gathering her thoughts, Ji-ho decides that she needs to talk to Se-hee about what's bothering her. She realizes that she can no longer continue to live in uncertainty and fears that if they don't discuss their feelings, it could affect their relationship. Over dinner, Ji-ho gently starts the conversation by telling her that she is worried about the lack of clarity in their lives. She confesses that her feelings for him are changing, and she's not sure how to further their relationship without knowing how Se-hee really feels. Se-hee, hearing her confession, is at a loss for words for a moment. He's known for a long time that this conversation would happen sooner or later, but he still wasn't fully prepared for it. However, realizing that Ji-ho needs reassurance, Se-hee realizes that this is the moment to act. He sees how important it is for her to know that she's not alone in her feelings, and for the first time in a long time, he decides to move past his fears. Se-hee slowly but surely begins to share his thoughts with Ji-ho. He confesses that he started feeling more than just friendly affection for her a long time ago, but his fear of possible failure and the pain he's experienced in the past has kept him from opening up. Se-hee explains that he was afraid that their relationship might not work out if they went beyond the original agreement, but now he realizes that his feelings for Ji-ho are much stronger than he let himself think. These words touch Ji-ho to the core. Her fears and doubts begin to dissipate when she realizes that Se-hee has the same feelings for her. But it has been difficult for him to open up because of his internal conflicts. They both realize that they were on the cusp of something important, but neither of them dared to make the first move. Se-hee decides it's time to change their relationship and take a step forward. He tells Ji-ho that he wants to try to build a real relationship with her, not based on a contract or formalities, but on sincere feelings and a desire to be together. This moment becomes a turning point for both of them. They no longer hide behind their fears and agreements, but begin to move towards each other. After Ji-ho and Se-hee finally open up to each other, they begin a new phase of their relationship. Their frank conversation makes them both realize that they are no longer willing to see each other as roommates, but as a couple who are building a future together. However, despite this important admission, they are faced with many issues that need to be resolved. Now that there are no more loose ends between them, they begin to discuss how they will build their relationship going forward. Ji-ho is relieved to know that her feelings are reciprocated, but she realizes that they have many questions to answer. How will they move on with their lives? What will change in their lives? These topics become the subject of their open and sincere conversations. Se-hee, who has long avoided serious talk about the future, is now ready to talk more openly about his plans. He confesses to Ji-ho that he used to be intimidated by the very thought of building a long-term relationship with someone. However, now that he has realized how important Ji-ho is to him, he decides to move past his fears. He proposes to develop their relationship more seriously, to build a future together, and to consider marriage no longer as a fictitious arrangement, but as a real union. For Ji-ho, this confession comes as an unexpected but pleasant surprise. Although they haven't discussed concrete steps yet, Se-hee makes it clear that he sees their future together and is willing to work on their relationship. He reveals that he realizes how his reticence and fears may have prevented them from getting closer before, but now he's ready to try to build a real life with her. Ji-ho, touched by his words, also shares her thoughts about the future. She talks about how important it is for her to feel loved and supported, and that she is ready to move forward with him if they are both sincere with each other. Both realize that their relationship requires not only emotional intimacy, but also a willingness to deal with the challenges that may come their way. Se-hee suggests that Ji-ho discuss their future more seriously, suggesting concrete steps to develop their relationship. He talks about the possibility of starting to make plans for their life together, perhaps making repairs to the apartment, dividing up household chores, even thinking about the future in terms of starting a family. These suggestions show that he sees Ji-ho as a life partner, not just a roommate or temporary companion. After an in-depth conversation about the future, Se-hee and Ji-ho realize that their relationship has outgrown the scope of the original contract, and they are both ready to admit it officially. The emotional closeness that has slowly formed between them now demands concrete action. Both decide that it's time to move on and build a life together where their feelings will be the main basis, not formalities. Se-hee, who previously avoided any serious relationship, now fully realizes that Ji-ho has become an important part of his life. He is willing to open up and admit his feelings to her. At the same time, Ji-ho, who has been struggling with uncertainty for a long time, now feels confident and ready for a new phase. Her fears and doubts disappeared when she realized that their feelings are mutual, they decide that they will no longer hide behind the mask of formal marriage and arrangements. Instead, they want to admit their true feelings and build a life together. Ji-ho and Se-hee agree that their relationship will no longer be defined only by practical aspects or external circumstances. They want to build their relationship on love, mutual support, and respect. Se-hee offers to discuss their next steps. He says he's ready to officially recognize them as a couple in front of their friends and families. This is a big step for him, as he has always avoided such discussions before. But now he realizes that he's ready for it because he's found what he's been looking for in Ji-ho: sincere affection and support. Ji-ho agrees to his proposal. She feels that this decision will bring her stability and confidence in the future. They both decide that from now on they will build their future together, openly and honestly, without fear of failure. This moment becomes a milestone in their relationship. Se-hee and Ji-ho decide that it's time to tell their friends and family that they are now an official couple, and that their feelings are not just part of an arranged agreement, but true love. This step becomes a symbol of their new life, where they will build their relationship on trust and support for each other. Now that Se-hee and Ji-ho have officially acknowledged their feelings for each other, they decide to take the next step by opening up to their friends and families. Their fake marriage has been a secret for a long time, and the people around them thought their relationship was formal. Revealing the truth that their feelings are real and they are building a future together brings a lot of emotions and causes different reactions among their loved ones. The first people they decide to tell about their decision are their closest friends. Ji-ho gathers her friends, and they all meet together in a cafe. The friends have long suspected that Ji-ho and Se-hee's relationship is more than just a cohabitation, but have not dared to ask direct questions. When Ji-ho finally tells them that she and Se-hee are now officially a couple, and are building a serious relationship, the girlfriend's reactions are mixed. On the one hand, Ji-ho's friends are happy for her because she has finally found someone she feels comfortable and happy with. They support her decision and share their joyful impressions. However, some of them can't hide their surprise. How did all this happen? They ask Ji-ho how true love was born out of a sham marriage and try to understand what led to this turnaround. Ji-ho happily shares her thoughts and feelings, telling how she gradually realized that her feelings for Se-hee had become real. Se-hee, meanwhile, talks about his relationship to his co-workers and friends. Although he's not used to discussing his personal life, he now realizes that this is an important step. His friends, who have always thought of him as a reserved and rational person, express surprise to learn that he has decided to build a serious relationship with Ji-ho. However, they are also happy for him, seeing that he has found someone he feels truly happy with. Meanwhile, their families also learn the truth that their marriage was a sham, but has now grown into a real feeling. This comes as a shock to Ji-ho's parents. They have long believed that their daughter was already married and living a happy family life. At first, they don't understand why Ji-ho decided to hide the truth about the fake marriage and start asking a lot of questions. Ji-ho explains that their arrangement was originally for practical reasons, but now she and Se-hee have found true love. The reaction of Se-hee's parents proves to be just as emotional. It was always important to his parents that he find the right partner, but they are surprised that their son has chosen such an unusual path. Se-hee, who had always kept his feelings under control and was reluctant to talk about personal matters, now openly tells them about how his life has changed thanks to Ji-ho. Although Se-hee's parents react with some trepidation at first, they are still happy that their son has finally found someone with whom he can build a life together. Opening up in front of family and friends becomes a major milestone in Se-hee and Ji-ho's life. Now they are no longer hiding their relationship and are ready to build their future openly, accepting any reactions from those around them. Despite the initial surprise and many questions, those close to them support them, realizing that their love is real and sincere. After Se-hee and Ji-ho open up to their friends and families, their lives begin to take a new shape. Now they are not only a couple building a future together, but also people trying to balance their personal and professional goals. However, with this new phase of life also come new challenges that challenge their ability to support each other in all situations. One of the first difficulties that the characters face becomes work. Ji-ho begins to get more opportunities in her career as a screenwriter. After years of working for years without the desired success, the chance to make a name for herself finally arrives. Her new project she is developing begins to gain popularity, and her professional life quickly picks up steam. But with success comes additional pressures, more meetings, more work, and less time for leisure and privacy. Ji-ho gradually realizes that her life now requires more energy and time than ever before. Se-hee, for his part, continues to focus on his career in IT. His work has always been his priority, and he's used to his life being subject to a strict schedule. However, now that their relationship with Ji-ho has become serious, he has to rethink his priorities. He begins to think about how to find a balance between work and their relationship. The time they used to spend together becomes less, and this causes both of them anxiety. One of the first times they encounter these difficulties is on an evening when Ji-ho, tired after another day of work, feels that she can't give Se-hee enough attention. She begins to worry that her professional life is beginning to distance them from each other. Se-hee feels it too, but tries not to show her concern so as not to burden her with additional emotions. However, the tension grows, and they both realize that their successful careers may be causing difficulties in their personal lives. During their conversation, Se-hee and Ji-ho decide that the most important thing for them is to support each other despite any obstacles. Se-hee first expresses his concern that their time together is becoming increasingly limited, but he also admits that he is proud of Ji-ho's success and wants her to achieve her goals. Ji-ho, in turn, talks about how important it is for her to feel his support and understanding at times when she is focused on her work. They both realize that career is important to their fulfillment, but now they need to find a balance so they don't lose their connection to each other. Se-hee suggests that Ji-ho find ways to spend more time together despite their busy schedules. They start planning evenings together where they can relax and talk, even if it's a short dinner or a walk. This decision helps them feel that they are still important to each other despite all the difficulties. At the same time, Ji-ho begins to realize that she needs to learn how to manage her time so that she doesn't let her work completely consume her. She doesn't want her personal life to suffer because of her career, and decides to be more conscious of how she spends her time. This move helps her feel in control of her life and confident that she can maintain a balance between her professional and personal goals. Se-hee, despite his inner turmoil, also begins to think more about how his life is changing because of Ji-ho. He realizes that support in a relationship is not just words, but actions as well. He begins to help Ji-ho with everyday tasks that previously seemed insignificant to him, and this makes their relationship even stronger. Ji-ho and Se-hee's life slowly becomes stable. They begin to build their future together, diving into their plans and creating a cozy home. Their relationship is no longer limited to an arranged cohabitation. They have become true partners, ready to support each other in any situation. They both feel that their love and mutual understanding has strengthened after they opened up to each other. For the first time in a long time, their lives seem calm and predictable. Se-hee continues his job in IT, and although his schedule remains busy, he tries to make time for Ji-ho. He begins to take more initiative in their relationship, helping around the house and making small but meaningful gestures to maintain an emotional connection. Ji-ho, for her part, is slowly learning to balance her career as a screenwriter with their life together. She feels more and more in her place, both in her relationships and in her professional path. However, despite the apparent stability, external circumstances jeopardize their relationship again. One such challenge is Ji-ho's sudden offer to work on a major new project. Her script attracts the attention of a famous producer, and the offer could be a big step in her career. But the project requires long shoots outside the city, which means Ji-ho will have to be away from home a lot. She has mixed feelings about the offer. On the one hand, she's excited about the new professional opportunity, but on the other hand, she's afraid that the frequent separations might cause problems in her relationship with Se-hee. Ji-ho decides to discuss her worries with Se-hee, fearing that his reaction might be reserved. However, to her surprise, Se-hee supports her in this endeavor. He says that he understands how important this opportunity is to her, and that they will be able to cope with the temporary separation. Se-hee confesses that their relationship has been a source of strength for him, and he's confident that they can get through any challenge. His support touches Ji-ho, but deep down she still continues to worry. When Ji-ho starts working on the project, external circumstances really start to create difficulties. Frequent traveling and long shooting days mean that she and Se-hee have less time to socialize. The separations start to weigh on both of them. Se-hee, though he tries to remain calm, notices that he misses Ji-ho more and more. He has grown accustomed to her presence in his life and now feels the loneliness that used to be familiar to him but has become painful. Ji-ho is also starting to feel that the separation is taking its toll on her. She is focused on her work, but her thoughts often return to Se-hee. She worries that the frequent separations may be weakening their bond, even though they have agreed to support each other. Ji-ho notices that it's becoming increasingly difficult for her to maintain a balance between her career and personal life, and it makes her wonder if the sacrifice is worth it for the sake of professional success. Tension slowly begins to build up between them. Both realize that external circumstances are testing their feelings again, but so far neither of them dares to discuss their feelings openly. One evening, when Ji-ho returns from filming, they have a conversation in which they both admit that the separation is taking its toll. Se-hee says that he realizes how important this project is to her, but admits that he misses their time together. Ji-ho, for her part, talks about how hard it is for her to be torn between work and relationships, and how important it is for her to feel his support. This conversation becomes a moment for them to find common ground again. They both decide that despite all the difficulties, they will continue to support each other. Se-hee suggests that Ji-ho look for more opportunities to spend time together, even if they are short meetings between her trips. They conclude that any external circumstances can be overcome if they are honest with each other and continue to work on their relationship. Se-hee and Ji-ho have endured many trials that have tested their love and commitment to each other. After going through the hardships of their careers, external circumstances, and their own fears, they realize that their feelings have only grown stronger. They now realize that their love can overcome any obstacle, and this realization brings a sense of confidence and stability to their lives. Ji-ho, returning after completing an important project, is relieved. The work was challenging, but she has learned how to better handle the balance between her career and personal life. Her support from Se-hee has played a key role in her success, and she is grateful to him for sticking by her side despite their separation's intentions. Se-hee has also changed during this time. His inner fears from past experiences are now less significant. He has learned to open up and share his emotions, realizing that his relationship with Ji-ho is something worth fighting for. He realizes that he can no longer hide behind rationality and distance. Their love has become a source of strength for him, and he is ready to build a future together with Ji-ho. They both come to the conclusion that they are ready to go further and officially strengthen their relationship. Se-hee proposes that Ji-ho marry him for real, not as part of a contract, but as an expression of their sincere feelings. Ji-ho happily accepts the proposal, realizing that their love is now the foundation of their lives. The finale of their story is filled with joy and peace. Se-hee and Ji-ho are confident that their love can handle any difficulties that may arise. They make plans for the future, knowing that they are now true partners, ready to support each other in any of life's challenges. Their journey is just beginning, but they are sure that they will be able to go through it together, relying on their love and mutual understanding.